Once the whole is divided, the parts need names. There are already enough names. Know when to stop. Know when reason sets limits to avoid peril. Rivers and streams are born of the ocean, and all creation is born of the Tao.
Namaste, Ashe. This is Gabrielle, or Omscorpius, here with another channeled message. We are doing a great channeled message on a movie I haven't seen in I don't remember when. It is called Frailty. It features Matthew McConaughey, and I don't remember the other actors. I think Bill Paxton is in there, I think. But basically, it's a really dark movie, but a good movie. So this is our channeled message for mainly that movie. I did pull some cards. We have our demon and angel cards. You know, the Most High's energy was very present in here. Like, I kept getting like Kronos Sandman in the middle of the reading, really heavy, which I didn't expect that watching the movie. So we're gonna jump right into this. So these videos are timeless. You get them whenever you need them, wherever you are in life. If it triggers you, I am not responsible for your lack of shadow work. If you enjoy it, I appreciate you being here. I hope you take something with it. I hope you come back. Hello, thank you for connecting. And if you don't like it, just leave it there and pretend like I don't exist. That works for me. So I am going to first read off the messages that I wrote down while I was watching the movie. And can I say Matthew McConaughey's voice is really soothing. Have you listened to any of his inspirational speeches on YouTube, like ASMR? It's so nice. But anyways, so Frailty. So basically the topic is going to be like the burden of the chosen one, okay? I know it's cliche, but just bear with me. To carry their father's mission, curse, or truth. So to carry their father's mission was basically like the movie carrying on the father's mission, which again, the movie was a good movie. It was a rare movie. It's not one of those movies that you see quite often. I thought it was very original. It's a classic, but just the bloody aspect of the movie was a bit much. Like, it was given a little bit like red flags when like our spirituality or like dogma becomes like egoic, you know, because I think sometimes our spirituality can become egoic, and like I think it's just good to center ourselves in the fact that there's always more to know, and then it's like a fail-safe for that trap. So, but anyways, it's a serious thing. But anyways, so they carry the load of their father's mission. I'm wandering off and talking, so let's keep it to the paper because we got a lot of pages to channel, and then we got some cards, so bear with me. The next one was dehumanizing others through spiritual labels. So that I basically just said that. That was the theme. So there was like, what came up in the middle of the movie was like how there's two different type of like dehumanizing others. Like, one is through spirituality, which I think is something a little bit different, and then the other one is through the dogma. And like, so it's coming up with the whole theme of like the heirs of falsehood and the heirs of chaos. And the ones who are heirs of falsehood, they are going to like regurgitate and reinforce the dogma, the programs, the division, the wars, the fights that have no end, because they're actually siphoning energies. They're not looking really to connect. It's more like to just establish definitions and labels, functionality type of thing. So it says isolation and fear, us versus them, that keep people trapped. So the father in the movie definitely was kind of like, I don't know, he had like that weird kind of like not so safe, shaky kind of vibe, you know, like, you know, and then just saying like kind of crazy stuff to his kids. But, you know, it's like one of those things where these things are like so cliche nowadays that it is unreal to speak of them. And so there was like a connection like from the beginning to the end. So in the beginning they gave you the perspective of like kind of like being the kid and realizing like, okay, dad's a little crazy, you know, like he's a little crazy, we're a little shook, but it was kind of like the perspective from like the older kid. So he was the one that didn't believe. He was the atheist. So there's a lot of characters. We're channeling this video. We're playing with these characters because I love channeling through movies. It's one of my niches or whatever. But anyways, so there was an isolation thing where he was kind of like using fear. So fear and isolation is a tool to either like seal the soul. It's like a method of indoctrination into a system. You know, it's definitely a tool for lords of order to reestablish and reinforce the dogma, to, you know, kind of seal off the soul, which is basically cutting you off from source, making you into material. It's swapping soul for materialism. It's very subtle. We do it all the time, but it's very subtle. And what can be done can be undone. It depends. Everyone has a unique experience. So, anyway, so the isolation and fear came up with how that's used, and then the weight placed on spirituality by energetic exchanges. So it's like with these exchanges, like when you say you're exchanging your soul for materialism, these are subtle things. They are spiritual and energetic mostly, because that's what you're exchanging your focus and your time for materialism. And so you know that right there. But okay, so that came up. So we're gonna flip the page here. And so what we have here is basically like it came up with the Exodus 14:14, which was basically like letting the Lord fight for me. And so like that came up towards like the ending of the video, where the father was basically really trying to beat into his son that, you know, he has a mission from God and that he needs him to like take the axe, you know, and do the job, because at this point he's been very disappointing. I kept getting the disappointing son. And like we have all of these characters like in the Bible and things like that represent characters and phases of our own growth in life and growing spiritually. And I mean, they're just dogmas that we outgrow, our soul outgrows, hopefully, or we just repeat and cycle in that same character. So like his son was basically the disappointing son, the one that didn't believe, the atheist, the problematic one, you know. That's what I kept getting throughout the whole thing, because he's like, what is wrong with this one, you know what I mean? And I feel like because he was the oldest one and dad's the eldest, he's like, you know, this is really important in case something happens to me. And at the end, you know, with the Exodus 14:14, he lied to him. He used deceit. He tricked him, and he hit him with the axe. He killed his dad. And then the dad had a little moment with the little son, because he had like two boys, eldest and youngest, and he said something to him. And, you know, it's really weird because it's like now like he's dead, so dad's mission is over. That's what the oldest is thinking. But like it was like God's promises are always going to be fulfilled. And it as it's written in the stars, you just align. It's all written with Yaldabaoth, Saturn, Kronos, and all those things. Those things are already written. You just align with it. So there's no way of getting around that. You just pick your character and play your part, whether you remember that you're playing a part or not. So it was weird because when he died and, you know, he's like, okay, now he's going to be influenced by his older brother. Come to find, towards the ending of the fucking movie, the little boy, the youngest one, had the vision too, like his father. And so that came up with like these weapons of God, one of them being vision, which just means to be able to see beyond the flesh, the veil of flesh. So back to the page really quick, because we're trying to be under a good time zone here, right? So what is the importance of being a God-fearing person in heart and spirit? I think so as far as us being here on, like, you know, I feel like it's really important, but I really don't have an answer for that right now. I'm so sorry. It came up in the middle of it, and I think it was like, maybe like not everybody, like, I think God-fearing is like a really fancy way of saying just having a vision beyond flesh, like knowing that the flesh is the veil and what's real is spirit. And if you can't see the spirits, then, you know, you might be in the wrong place at the wrong time type of situation sometimes, and how that works. But it definitely made me think of that. So I think the God-fearing thing kind of triggers my own, like, issues with my own religion stuff, and but it's a powerful message when you actually achieve vision, and then you understand having it in heart and spirit is very important when you're like in the land of trickery and flesh, you know, and like wandering spirits and things like that, and like stuff, you know, out here that people normally don't believe because they don't have the vision to see. I think those who see when shown, and those who do not see came up again, and it was like the ones that are sealed, like something about them not seeing that they are what they are. Like, they don't see that they're like, I don't know, ghosts in the machine, you know. They don't see their disconnection from source, you know, and they don't see that they're being siphoned. It's like something that is on a really subconscious level, but it's a little dangerous. Like, they pose a danger because of the wandering spirits. They are like, there's like different levels to like demons and stuff like that. Like, you have like the lower level demons, and you have the arch demons, and things like that. And these would be like in the equivalent to like that as spiritual. But anyways, it's not like good or bad or whatever. It's just like like an ecosystem, like a spiritual ecosystem. So, and then we're going to roll right into, on the paper here, those who see the demonic that wish to taint the essence of God or sacrifice to the demiurge. So basically, it's like when you say like sacrifice to the demiurge, it's basically your soul like not taking accountability for like your karma. So you have to like project it and sacrifice it onto something else, you know, like and you know, sometimes it's like it can be the blood of the lamb, but sometimes it becomes the black goat, and it's just really weird things can happen like that, and you have to be really careful with these practices, you know what I mean? Because especially if you can't see and you're practicing things like that, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit scary, and I don't know how that works, but apparently this guy could see in the movie, like the dad, he could see that shit. By touching them, he would have visions. And he would have visions like from like other interdimensional beings coming to him. Really interesting. So anyways, those who see when shown, those who do not see. Seeing is vision. All have sight, few actually see. Weapon of seeing beyond the veil of flesh. So that is a weapon, because the war is actually spiritual before it's ever flesh. So then we also have here the tool for seeing. So there were some tools that he was using throughout the movie, which I found was interesting. There was an axe, there was the touch, and there was the vision. And so it was just really, really interesting what those mean. Do with those what you will. I'm not, going to dive into that. And then we have here the patience and time with Sandman, God, and Saturn. So that came up in the movie where the dad was starting to notice that his eldest son was not cooperating. Like, I don't know if it was cooperating or more like he could peep that maybe he didn't have the vision like he did. there was a disconnect, and the disconnect is not physical. So the movie really emphasizes these things are not physical. You can't see them. They're energetic before you can ever see them. So he's showing a lot of resistance before he actually takes an axe to his dad and physical material reality, but there's a energetic disconnect of resistance. And so this goes like back to like these mental structures which are like as old as time, I think. And I don't know everything, bear with me with my paraphrasing, I am just a channeler, but I was getting like Enlil and Inky and like these two mindsets, but it's like one bird, same two wings, and they're two mindsets that we all operate in, or we can operate in both and be one bird. It's something like that going on here, but just don't take the video literal, because it's physical, but it's more spiritual. So everything was subtle. His beef with his oldest son, yeah, that's when time, because he had said something like, maybe I'll give it time, like give it to God, and like maybe my son will come over, because it's something he can't control, because he can't control that his son has or has not vision. That's out of his control. Has anyone noticed that? You can't control that you came into this world, right? You don't remember that, right? Hello. So maybe that's why it's good to have the fear of like, you know, God in your heart and spirit to remind you that there are some things that were outside of your control that got you here. But that doesn't mean that you're not like a god, but that means that there's something over you that put you here to begin with. You know what I mean? So we're not like the highest, but we're not like the lowest either. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's something to that. But anyways, he had to hand it to God, because he can't control that his son doesn't have the vision, or it does, or he has no control over that. But he says father by blood. And that's another thing. Blood relatives versus this spiritual vision thing. It's sometimes doesn't really depend on blood. And maybe there's something else that is a connection beyond blood that cannot be seen, more real than flesh. So we have take heed to visions and messages from interdimensional beings. And I heard a loud snake sound after that, so that was weird. That shit scared me, actually. So, you know, I'm just sitting here trying to focus on the movie. To tell you the truth, I had a little bit of a difficult time, but Matthew McConaughey's voice will make me get through anything, really. So I persevered. And so it was when the dad was like underneath the car, and he was like fixing the car, and he had like a vision from like, it looked like Archangel Michael with the sword. It was a red angel. I don't know. It could have been Michael. I don't know. Red angel. And he had a sword. And like the dad rolled from under the car and wrote it down, whatever the message was. And then there was like a loud snake sounds, and then so something about snakes, or I don't know, it scared me. It really brought my attention. So anyways, and then we have evil. This came up in the scene where basically, like, you know, the movie again is kind of violent, and it's kind of violent with like, it's kind of like him pressuring his kids to do like really violent shit, but it's like part of this stuff is very violent. Like with spiritual warfare is very violent, but with the veil of flesh, it doesn't look like that, you know? And so it's a very violent situation that they're in, because it's kind of showing you that in a weird way in the movie, how it is violent and how it has like a negative effect on the kids. And so he's like trying to like let them know like what he's doing is like getting rid of like evil people. It was weird. I think this was him and his troubled son again, and it was like, the message came out with purging the evil systems of siphoning of our divine spark by harassment, coercion, and abuse, masked by falsehood and offensive dogma. So like offensive dogma is basically like using the mask or the systems that are like material to like establish like a foothold in your life, because it's like the saying like a wolf doesn't a wolf offers to build the walls. Like, the wolf wants to be in the house building the walls with you and building the dogma with you, because you are the prey. Those that prey on you want to be on the other side of the wall with you. You know what I mean? And so they will use dogma to do that, to trickery, the tricks, the mind games, and using flesh to do that, which is very important, like mainly using the veil of flesh to veil themselves as well. Like they're veiled as well as we are veiled, but some people can't even see that. And I really do think that came up again, was like those who are not seeing are, I don't think that there's like being stuck there, but there's a siphoning happening. Like, being unable to see or remember is like a symptom of siphoning happening, and awareness to it kind of breaks the siphoning. So, yep, I hope that made sense for somebody. And then back to the page, because we have a few pages to get to, then some cards. So it says fear is profit. So with one of the demon and angel cards, I got fame and fortune and like an empire, right? And so I feel like this is something that, like, the glitches in the Matrix have really established like institutions for siphoning as like a business, and like sealing souls as like a profit. So it's really some scary shit. So fear is used to seal off the soul, cutting the current to source. False men siphon due to their own choice to seal themselves off. So these are like cosplayers of God. They want to be the ultimate God, but what they are actually being is like a glitch in the Matrix, like causing more division and more divisive tactics to like cause more dogma and separation. Like they would probably be like the aspect of like what was it, Zeus dividing his children so they could never know themselves, like a force of that, and it just being aware of those systems that do that. And so it says like they've lost their connection from source, so they have to siphon yours. And it makes me think of like the sex, I can't say their names, the dark crystal with the ugly little thingamajigs. And remember, like in the end, I don't know, I can't say their names right now, I'm not going to try anymore, but those things that were siphoning the dark crystal from like the gelflings, and like they were siphoning their energy. So like they were the dark aspect of like the opposites, which were, I don't remember what they were like monks or something like that, but I forgot what their technical name was in the movie. And they came together as one, so one bird, two wings again. And so this is like a spiritual war, a spiritual confusion, a spiritual situation that we're going on about. So yeah, and then I have here, so like the God within us must remember, so like, yeah, the God within us must remember who we are, and basically this is, I don't know, like resurrecting the ghost in the machine. So but not everyone can do that, because it I don't know, not everybody wants to do that apparently. But anyways, so falsehood is a mental structure that uses dogma as a weapon while occupied by distorted spirits. This structure is used to anchor and possess the vessel. So I was getting a little bit of like demonic oppression and possession here, with like dealing with archons and how they, indoctrinate and kind of dig themselves like ticks into the psyche of others using similar tactics. And again, the flesh is just a veil for a spiritual aspect going on underneath. So you don't see it. But in a way, falsehood kind of transcends dogma, but they do use it in a sense because they're not, if they're wandering spirits like Nephilim, they're not really flesh anyways. They want flesh, so they're not even a thing of flesh anymore. And so they do use the dogma as a tool for like demonic oppression within what the hell did I just write? Hold on. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that. They do use the dogma as a tool for demonic oppression. So the issue is ancient, and the issue has been made a profit by the human glitch in the Matrix. So this reminded me of the movie Legion with Dogma. Yeah, so I've been having a lot of these movies on my mind lately, which I don't know if I'll rewatch Legion, but the old lady with the scene, and like, so like, it's just, again, with the flesh, old lady, you know, sweet old lady, not thinking anything of it. She just wants some food at a restaurant, and like she says some by the way shit, you know, out of nowhere, you know. And have you ever like had those weird experiences where you're just talking to someone, normal conversation, normal situation, you talking to a waiter, and they say some weird ass shit that connects to you on a deeper spiritual level, and it's like there's no way in hell they could have known that or said that right now. Wandering spirits, that's that shit I'm talking about. It's the creepiest fucking shit. So and there was a whole bunch of them that looked like that. So it's the crack that seeks to crack the other. So I'm realizing that a lot of the mocking wandering spirits like to do is because they're already fragmented. So they basically pervert and invert everything to basically reflect what they are on internally. So that, like, the external has to validate what's internal. But yeah, it's weird. It's something like that. So they are cracked, so they have to like cause you to crack too in some way. So normally their attacks are going to be like related to an insecurity or a shadow. But I also have here the danger of spiritual egoism. All right, so this is going to get into that whole dehumanizing that I was kind of feeling, because it's a violent movie, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if it's more violent because there's two kids present, or if it's violent because it's kind of like Christianity-ishy. You know, if you have an issue with religion, sometimes it can be a little triggering. The movie is a little bit triggering for me, but it's like once you're a little bit beyond that, it's like, okay, I can see the point. I can see the point, but it's something about it, but it has to come out. So to dehumanize based on dogma versus spiritualism. This identifies the demonic that use dogma to cosplay as God on the material realm. Change the war but continue the confrontation. There is no transmutation because the soul is sealed. There's no connection. They don't want to connect. And yeah, sometimes they can't connect. And I think some of the can't connect may relate to accountability of karma. And that ties into like Saturn, you know, the father, the black cube, you know. So it says, mindfulness of dehumanizing by spiritualism is cruel because false men do not remember. Their eyes turn black. Demonic possession is a circus today due to demonic consumption on a spiritual level, internal level. So I feel like I've experienced demonic consumption before. Like, you know, remember I think I've said this, where it's like, have you ever like just lived your life without purpose and it kind of feels like you're on a carousel and you don't even know what's going on? You're just looping. That's what it kind of feels like. And then we are going to get into, like, because the carrying the weight of father's mission was like really heavy with family curses and patterns and pressures passed down. So this ties into with chosen ones. Chosen ones are people who are choosing to break their generational curses. Usually you have to have, like, I don't know what you have to have, but you got to choose it. I know that. And that shit's not easy. It comes with a lot of, not easy stuff. And so it's like, there was a lot of things to do with like generational curse breakers, reinforcers of curses. So you have people that like who, tip into reinforcing their curses versus breaking them, which that's a thing. And then sacrificing others for the curses that they won't break. And then there's just so many spiritual parts we could play in any incarnation that we have. And all understanding that all of these parts are like, it's like phases of our spiritual growth, the dogma, the roles we play. But we have to break those dogmas and have a new role, a new part to play in our lives and the lives of others and all that stuff. So we have the heir of the Lords of Chaos and Lil, and then heirs of the Lords of Order, Inky. I don't know why I said it like that. Just separate those. Lords of Order and Chaos, and then Enlil and Inky, which I think two birds in the same thing. So we already talked about that. So we're gonna skip over that. All right. And then hold on. This is more mental and spiritual. The flesh is only a result of a system already established in mind and spirit before the flesh. So again, powers and principalities, like that's what we're fighting here. We're not really fighting flesh. And sometimes we just don't see it sometimes, and sometimes we develop this sight. And I really want to emphasize that. Sometimes we do develop the sight. That's really important here. All right, because I don't want to get too big for my britches, because I definitely did not see at one point. I've been on the carousel and I don't like it. So we have dealing with those who deny the truth when shown. So it's basically like, it made me think of like the Matrix, when Morpheus was taking Neo like a little trip, and he was like, there's people here who would like defend the Matrix and all this other stuff. And it's kind of like that with like, I don't really know what you would call these people, but it is a thing. Like, they just don't have the vision to see the spiritual war. They just don't have the vision to see the powers and principalities. So how you approach them has to be the way that they can, see, or how they have sight. It's better to say how they have sight. Approach them how they have sight. And it is a thing, and that's just the world that we live in. It's more like, it is what it is. So we have loyalty to the falsehood that wait a minute, what? Okay, loyalty to the falsehood that binds us, or the chaos that frees us. So I think this had to do with like the father wanting the son's loyalty and his mission, the eldest son, who was just not acclimating to the thing because he didn't have the vision. So a lot of the times they say the reason why they're not acclimating to the program is because they're not with the program. They're outside of the program. Their system internally works different than your system, or like whatever it is that you're trying to upload cannot be uploaded to that particular system. And that happens too in this reality, and it just kind of like a fall of the cards. I'm kind of getting the movie, what's that movie, oh my god, with the different factions and shit, with the girl, Dauntless and all that other stuff, and how what are the guys that could be in multiple factions, and they were actually trying to get rid of those people. They didn't want the ones who belonged in multiple houses. They just wanted the ones that could fit into one mold. And then it was just a crazy movie. So that's basically it. Like, sometimes that's just the roll of the dice when it comes to like the veil of flesh and like the spiritual aspect. Like, some beings are just cannot be sealed like that, you know what I mean? And it's a good thing. It's a sign of human evolution. So the father's issue with the son's loyalty to his mission, remembering God, is remembering the suffering and the passions of self. So it's like you have to really know like the depths of your sorrow to know like the heights of like the joy or passions that you could have. And I think that is God. Like how they say like Satan is passion, God is passion. Like, he's passion for life. You know what I mean? Those who are sealed can always unseal by accountability of self, spiritual costs and fines, and proclaiming their vessel. So yeah, I do think that's a thing, something about self-actualization. I definitely has something to do with, like, I feel like banishing attachments, spiritual attachments that aren't yours, so that you can be more sovereign in your internal temple, which is important in a world that is based off of indoctrination, you know. But everybody has their place and their position and kind of falls into place, you know, and we can't control that, which was the whole Exodus 14:14 with, you know, I have to give it to God, for my eldest son to either have a vision or not have a vision. And then so it says to unseal is as simple as remembering the past karma. So when we're sealed, we are in a state of unawareness. Unawareness is a symptom of siphoning on a spiritual level. What is the system we are bound to in our life? Beware the spirits of distortion that seek to confuse us. So I felt the spirit of distortion and confusion. When did that come up? I don't even remember. I think it was like the dad having his doubts, maybe from his son. And I do feel like spirits are transferable, depending on your level of awareness. They're definitely transferable. And I think maybe the father was having, I don't know. I don't know if something was happening. It seemed like he was having some type of doubts or hesitations because he, I guess, wanted his son to have vision. But maybe in a sense he was like disobeying the vision that he was receiving, that he doesn't have vision. Because when his son hit him with the axe at the end, he was really quick to tell the little one that, like, whatever he said, don't trust him or whatever. I don't know what he said. They like didn't tell you that in the movie. So it seemed like maybe it was something he knew the whole time, but he just had his doubts. And so I think that came up with there being consequences to not listening to the visions or messages that the Most High gives you. Has consequences too. And I think I kept getting the Bible verse, like keeping your eye on God all day today. All day, keeping your eye on God will save you from the traps of flesh, because the tricks are so real. So let me back up. So we also have faith and atheism. So Bodis is a wonderful demon that I have discovered that works with atheism. And Bodis is basically, everyone has these systems, everyone has these spirits, but the issue is when you're unconscious, these spirits basically siphon you. And so it's good to be aware of Bodis and atheism and how it kind of siphons from our own divine spark to be more than just flesh, to remember that we are more than just the veil of flesh, you know, and what's real is not the veil of flesh. And so Bodhis is wonderful, and he's found within all of us. For stronger faith and vision, we must confront the fear that has sealed us from believing before it. So these are rituals that happened before we forgot who we were. Rituals that happened before we forgot who we were. These are powers and principalities, not men of flesh. Okay, and so we have the tactics used to siphon, trigger, and seal. We have the Most High doesn't miss. So the tactics used to siphon, trigger, and seal. So I feel like to a certain extent, it's almost, the movie kept giving me this message of, to a certain extent, we don't have control of the spirits that we're given, because everyone who's coming here is coming here with their own mission. We don't know. And so like we will do these things, I feel, naturally to like either siphon, trigger, or seal. I felt like the father's attempts, even though it was a violent movie, I'm going to give it that, his attempts were to trigger this vision in them. And when he did that, it actually, and the eldest son triggered something else, because he wasn't meant to see. He was like a sealed soul. And so it just didn't work. It just didn't work, and it actually worked the opposite. And I think sometimes it can happen one way or the other, depending on what we do. Siphoning, trigger, or sealing can have an adverse effect depending on the spirit that's already inside, and none of us know that. None of us really know that, you know? We don't know. That's the risk that we take by those actions. And this is how we like touch people spiritually. This is how we touch people spiritually. So we have the rebellion. So when the dad got killed by his oldest son, after he had already tricked his dad, I got the whole thing with the whole rebellion against the Most High, and how the false systems and orders, empires built on exploiting the Most High and the divine spark until he enters or remembers. So I feel like this is like just us being born in a system that indoctrinates us and makes us forget. It's talking about us. It's us until we remember who we are. They will continue to siphon, authority against like evil spirits. So these are the promises of God which came up, which matched with the Most High doesn't miss, and the promises of God. So like it's already written. Like I think the issues with falling into the traps of falsehood is that when you're cosplaying as God, I think sometimes like you forget like a lot of this stuff is like bigger than us, like stuff that is already weaved and written in time. And like there are beings that come before us and beyond us, and it's like you don't become a god just to like wipe out other gods, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And there's primordial forces older than us, and remember a lot more than us. So I don't know, it's just something about that before and after energy where you cannot escape that. As a false man, you can't not escape that, but they try. So it says the angel of death, warriors of God, are not as false man assumes, because he assumes his dogma as God and renders spiritual transparency. to build a system that basically feeds his dogma. And so towards the ending, they had the FBI, and I got like the energies of like FBI Men in Black type of energies. And I feel like some of these things on like these powers and principalities are like handled at levels that we don't even understand. And I had gotten that initially. I haven't seen this movie in a while, and like towards the end, like that guy, he gave him a handshake. And so this is the son, that's the only son now at this point, because the only son at this point, and he like gave him a handshake, the FBI agent, because he was talking about, you know, these, you know, missing peoples or whatever in the movie Frailty. I mean, like the dad was literally killing people, so it was not good. And so he gave him a handshake, and I had initially thought, you know, there's probably some connection there. And he was like, he could see into him that he was a good person, and so it was like he can just see into people at this point. I think there was like a demon list in the beginning where they made like a list of names that his dad made that God had given him to get rid of, and his son did complete the list. And then I guess after that didn't mean that his vision stopped. He continued to be able to see into people, and so at that point he was just, I guess, cleansing the planet of these glitches / abominations that are kind of like sealed and terrorizing people through flesh, terrorizing other people, spirits through flesh or something like that. So it was just really interesting. They had a good handshake, so I think there's something like a connection there with that. And then it says, praising God pours anointing on us in darkness. So take that as you may. And then when God gives no pity to dissipate, when God gives no pity to disobeying his words. So I think that went back all the way back to maybe like the dad, you know, now that I think of it, because I think he was just second guessing his vision. He just probably didn't want to, you know, unalive his first son, you know what I mean? He's probably was that, but that cost him his life at the end. And then his older brother disobeying, well, can you even call it disobeying? Because he didn't really have vision. So it wasn't even disobeying. He was just doing what he saw, which was not what they saw, you know. So I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna move on. So those who seek to know visions, Ted Bundy. What? Visions, Ted Bundy. Oh yeah. So those who see know. Oh my God, I can't even read my own handwriting. Those who see know. Those who see know. And then Ted Bundy, the vision. So I had gotten this when the dad basically was like taking the guys off of his list into the basement, you know what I mean? And like he was gonna unalive and do his old thing. But before he did any of that, he put his hand on him to see the spirits inside. And I had thought of Ted Bundy, and you know how like Ted Bundy, like the stupid thing is that he was so good at the facade of being this community person that they did not know he had about like how many men did he have buried under his basement, you know, that he like, you know, did all types of shit too, and was running some sketchy thing and like killing people. So it was just really weird. But I thought of that with the whole dogma and the mask, that these entities, or I don't know what to call them at this point, entities, distorted spirit, hungry spirits, and the sealed souls, the ghosts in the machine, these ghosts using the veil of flesh to trick people, those guys. So those who work for the false system reinforce corruption by siphoning. So basically you can identify the demonic by the corruption they reinforce. And then I got the Storm of the Century. That's when I had thought of like, so it's like that whole pushers get pushed thing. Again, it's like you have pushers, but then you have the Most High. Like you have like these other spirits, even the warriors of God, like with the whole Father and those who have vision, even those you can say are different types of spirits, you know, versus these hungry spirits and these sealed souls using flesh to mask themselves, you know what I mean? So in Storm of the Century, I leaned on what's his name? Andre Lanoge, and how he could like read into people's minds. And it was like evil people pleading to be innocent, but like tell the truth, shame the devil. And a lot of the times they can't, you know what I mean? Like they can't, they plead the victim. But it's like the wolf in sheep's clothing type of act, type of thing. And so it's something with that energy, which I think is like the Most High's. I think my favorite trick of the Most High is, you know, calling a coyote, you know what I mean? And then so knowing the hidden evil was the next word. And then faith is necessary to walk in vision before flesh. It is, because the flesh is very tricky. The veil of flesh is very, very tricky. So that was our last word that we have here. So faith is necessary to walk in vision before flesh. That's nice. I'm going to take a quick water pause, guys, because my mouth is dry. And then we're going to pull. I hope you all enjoy this. I was a little nervous doing it because the movie is a little violent, but I haven't seen that movie in a while, and it wasn't the first time I had like an intuitive nudge to watch the movie, to do a channeled message. I was kind of curious what would even come up. I think the last time I saw that movie, I did like it, I think. All I gotta say, I love me some Matthew McConaughey. Oh my god. It's not even his face, it's his soul. Okay? It is the soul of Matthew McConaughey is what I'm talking about. Alright? You could put a bag over his head, just have him talk, and it's his soul. I swear to God. Oh my God. Alright, I'm gonna eat the Stranger Things. I thought it would be a perfect deck to use for this type of movie, since the movie is basically about spirits, but it's kind of perceived or portrayed in a very like CSI type of way. And like the whole time they're like preaching the Bible and God and stuff the whole time, but it is dealing with spirits are a real thing, and so is God. So we're going to use Stranger Things. Bear with me. Alright, hold on. Alright, we got the High Priestess on the top. The High Priestess here, who is 11. Okay, we got 11 here. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right way to talk into the phone. So we have 11. Okay, and then on the back, oh my God, this is some weird stuff, man. And on the other side, we have Temperance. I'm getting the red and blue pill from the Matrix. I'm getting the Lords of Orders, the Lord of Chaos. I wish I could take a picture of this. I might have to. Literally, the High Priestess has the blue card, and the Temperance has the red card, and that's the masculine. So I think this has something to do with reclaiming our divine spark in a situation that we were thrown into and didn't remember. And remembering is like wandering through a dark forest and understanding that you have to be the light in the darkness. May we find the light in the darkness within ourselves. This is within. It is within us. It is the maze, forever changing maze. And finding pieces of ourselves. So that's what I'm getting. It's so worth it And I also had a shadow card that I had pulled earlier, which dealt with neglect, and maybe like our neglect to do this is contributing to a system that is feeding off of us that, so it's making somebody happy. That's all I'll say. So, but, okay. So we're going to move right on. I think that message is good. That was interesting. The High Priestess and Temperance and the balancing of, I feel like, spirituality and practicality while you hold vision. Keep your eyes on the Lord. Keep your eyes on the truth. When you say the Lord, you're just saying the fucking truth, okay? Not your falsehood. It's the truth. Keeping your eyes on the truth, what you see, trusting what your vision is telling you. Okay, and that was great. And then we'll go ahead and pull like one Uno card and a Oracle to top it off with happy vibes, okay? I think it's crazy that I have the red and blue card, Lords of Order and Chaos, and I really just think, again, it goes back to like the spirit. Like, we can't control what spirit has incarnated in the flesh. So again, what was it? There was 3 things: siphon, trigger, or seal the soul is what they'll experience in their incarnation, and depending on how they react to that, will tell you. We have the draw 2 card, draw 2. So we have 2 and 8, and they're both green. So I really do think, it's this, chance. Like, I feel like we're 2 jumping in a loop, this 8 loop, this possibility, this cycle, this for this spiritual growth or not. And we'll either be, siphoned, triggered, or sealed. You know what I mean? And so it says a lot of, I don't know, our spiritual evolution. I don't think it's like a one size fits all. I just think it's going to be unique depending on what your soul is or needs to do. I don't think it's a competition. I think the competition thing is like those Nephilim distortion spirits, the confusion spirits trying to confuse you from the purpose of you jumping into the loop as a spiritual being. Hold your vision. Your vision is unique to you. So when you're competing with other people, you're not paying attention to your unique vision, your Lord, your God, force type of thing. So, yes, that was weird. So let's go ahead and pull this happy card and call this channeled message a channeled message. Okay, so this one wanted to come out. Oh my God, and the first word I see is see this from a higher perspective, and the sun is shining on a purple card. And then we have another 8 that popped out. Devotion unites me with the infinite. So the devotion is the sight. The devotion is seeing our truth, and our truth, and seeing God is seeing our truth, and why we're in the loop in beginning, and understanding that what dogma is trying to teach our soul to grow out of. Dogma is just a character, like with the dad, with the son who couldn't see, the dad having his doubts and atheism. All of these are just parts that we play. The dogma are just parts that you play that kind of show you where your soul is in developing. And just be careful of the hungry spirits that distract you from that. And they veil themselves in the flesh as well. So siphon, trigger, or seal, that was pretty cool. See this from a highest perspective. You have to keep your eyes on God. Was really heavy today. Keep your eyes on God so you're not tricked by the flesh and the hungry spirits. I love it. Yep. And your devotion to the Most High is basically your devotion to yourself and your truth over falsehood. Falsehood leads to nothing but you wasting your energy. Okay, giving your energy away to something that isn't even true. And I think we underestimate how important that is, giving our energy away to things that aren't true. We think, oh, it's just a lie. Is it? You know, how long do you have to lie that it starts eroding away at your soul? You know what I mean? So, but anyways, so that was our channeled message for this awesome movie, Frailty. Definitely check it out. It has Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton. Great movie. I hope you enjoyed it, got some messages, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.
The Great Way is universal. It can apply to the left or the right. All beings depend on it for life. Even so, it does not take possession of them. It accomplishes its purpose